Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We are very pleased to have with us Dr. Panos Pappas, who is here from Greece. He is a professor of physics and mathematics for some 20 years at University of Piraeus, and is also the inventor of a very interesting technology, a medical technology known as the Papimi device, the Papimi technology. And it's been helping people for actually well over 10 years. He'll be telling us the story about how he discovered its medical attributes, which was not what he originally had envisioned, and some of the effects that it's having on people actually at this point worldwide. Dr. Pappas, a pleasure to have you on the show.
Nice meeting you.
Good to meet you, indeed. Wouldn't you please give us a little idea of just what your own background is and how it is that you were led to coming up with this particular technology?
Okay, first I had a degree in mathematics, and then I was doing in theoretical physics. I finished in about the end of 70s, and in early 80s I decided to research atmospheric electricity and lightning as a postdoctoral research. During that research, I came to know Professor Grenier of MIT. By the year 85, I was invited to MIT to carry some experiments with artificial lightning, simulating lightning with huge explosions, and see how much how much current we could put in heavy cables.
Oh, for the cables to carry
Electricity on high power lines. How much they could stand electrical current to be struck by lightning.
Tolerated instead of exploded.
Exactly. Okay. At that time, Professor Grenier explained to me that we have to be really fast, and I had to carry the research not with him but with his son, and explained to me that he was given a month to live because he was spreading cancer all over his body, and he will not have time to finish this research. This was a very touching point he made to me. And then it was about this time in the year 85, September, and by the end of September I always have to be back to lecture.
Back in Greece.
Right. I cannot be away from that because we started regular lecturing students.
Sure.
So
You're carrying on the great classical tradition of academic study in Greece, of all places.
Right. So I was in touch with the son instead of the father, waiting for the bad news to hear. And in about January, February, just imagine this period, he told me that the doctors said that there's no cancer anymore, and that the father went a spontaneous remission, which is an expression of ignorance for classical medicine when something happens that they don't understand. In this case, it was a happy event that all cancer disappeared.
Explanation for it or not, it was a happy event.
Happy event with no explanation. Then I was thinking about this, and I considered that probably the radiation we received from lightning would be the reason.
Now you had developed a technology.
No, it was a common at MIT laboratories, at the Department of Plasma Physics.
Oh, it was a collaboration between you and them.
Correct. And both of us, and actually my wife, and that has a meaning you will see, were exposed at that time. So I thought, since the cancer of Professor Grenier vanished, and I had the impression that cancer could vanish under destructive ways and methods to be destroyed. I considered that radiation destroyed his cancer, but I didn't tell you my wife was pregnant in 3 months. She had the 3 months fetus, and then I was really worried because the fetus had been exposed and would be damaged. And in about April, with very much being worried, she delivered a fantastic baby.
On time.
On time. Now he's 16 or 17 years old right now. He's very advanced, very intellect in every respect. So at that time, that was a dual experiment. A pregnant woman was exposed in a radiation, and a patient with cancer given 1 month to live exposed at the same time. Now, on one case, I witnessed a cancer to vanish and the healthy baby not to be affected.
Turning into a super baby.
turn into a super baby.
If you
That was a double experiment. And that was...
on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. Which you would never expect, because treating cancer always you have side effects and adverse effects, not beneficial.
Well, if you use conventional treatment, yeah.
Not beneficial effects.
Surely.
So that made me to change the course of my research and status as a postdoctoral researcher. Besides that, I was specializing in atmospheric electricity right after my PhD, and I had come across, reading in the literature of lightning, that there were many medical and particular beneficial effects when lightning stroke hit next to somebody who had a disease. And that was recorded in the lightning literature, but not in the medical literature. So I decided there I had an opportunity. And since that time, I decided to dedicate myself to the research. And 6-7 years later, I had the first artificial lightning in a box, which we call it now Papimi. So you understand now Papimi is a lightning in a box. It's a lightning in a box.
Sure. PAP is for
PAP stands for mine.
And IMI
is
for?
ion magnetic inductor. I don't want just to tell people right away that it's lightning. People will be scared.
Yes. But it is basically the same technology that you developed at MIT.
Yes, as a matter of fact, yes. Since I was working early 80s in atmospheric electricity,
right,
researching for atmospheric electricity.
Now, what was your explanation of how it worked when your colleague got cured of his cancer?
At that time, I could not explain that, but I had witnessed many biological effects other than those I read during studying the literature of that subject. For example, doing heavy electrical explosion, I realized that all my brain was like getting into a strong light, though there was no light in that experiment. So I said there is a biological effect. At that time in the literature was completely void of any information on any effect of electrical current on biological matter. I was absolutely unthinkable to consider that there could be an effect, either a direct touch of electricity, that you make contact.
The work of Dr. Becker was certainly in the 70s, which made it very clear that the effect of what happens when biological system is electricity is introduced to it.
Yeah, by contact, not by induction, remotely.
Oh, okay.
That is a remote. I don't mean that lightning will hit you directly, but nearby you,
okay,
remotely.
Yes, okay.
Without leaving any marks or no danger.
So what is your explanation of it?
Okay, it is a very sudden event. You know, when you have lightning or sparking, there is nothing, and all suddenly something comes on. So it's an on-off effect, you change the state from nothing to a huge electrical field for a very short period of time. There are two characteristics of lightning: extreme high power and extreme short duration. Extreme high power and extreme short duration. And this is the characteristic of Papimi. It provides pulses were very powerful, extremely powerful, in the order of 500 million watts. It's a very huge number.
500 million
watts. But they last only less than a millionth of a second.
Less than a
millionth of a second. See, we have these lamps that are about 100 or 50 watts. Now you imagine you have a 500 million, which is 500 million.
Well,
lightning at once.
Completely incomprehensible.
Yes. So
without question.
The secret is to lead them, but to keep them on a small fraction of time, like a millionth of a second.
But what is the effect on that?
Okay.
On the body?
I have to make a very elementary explanation,
sure.
And I have to make a very elementary example. I take a nail, and I want to put the nail through a wood, and I have a hammer. I place the hammer on the nail, nothing happens. Even if I leave the hammer 100 years, it's going to give a small mark on the wood. But if I use an impulse and I hit the nail with
power,
with a fraction of a second, a very short period of time, but with a high power, then it does a major change. The nail starts traveling through matter. So impulses which occur instantly, but they have a really high power, make matter to penetrate into matter. This is the principle, makes matter going into other matter. And this is what the cell needs, because cell is based on metabolism. In the metabolism is the transfer of matter inside the cell through a porous membrane.
Sure.
Now, and we have anabolism and catabolism, which is in and out transfer of nutrients and waste and oxygen.
Of course. Nutrients in, waste elimination out.
Out, correct. We eat because the cells have to eat. We throw naturally out because the cells have to do so. We breathe because the cells have to breathe. But they do all these functions through a porous membrane. Mm-hmm. Now let me give you an analog. That's the pepper and salt shaker. If you turn over the pepper or the salt, very little salt comes out. If you shake it, if you pulse it, there it comes. So again, we have the same phenomenon in an impulsive way. We have salt going through a porous membrane, which is just in this case I let us think that this is the cell membrane. Mm-hmm. So it makes the salt travel through the membrane. Now we have ions in the serum around the cells, which are being pushed with this magnetic pulse and are going to hit everything around there. So they hit the cell membrane and they penetrate the cell membrane much faster than they would if there was no pulse there. So it increases cell metabolism that way.
What is it driving? It's an excellent image, but if you could just tell our audience, what is it that it is driving into the cell? What chemically?
There's nothing chemically. It's the ions themselves. They are pushed.
You're saying it's reionizing the
No, the ions are present. You have electrolytes, that the ions in the blood. You have to have a balance of electrolytes.
Sure.
If you disturb the balance, you die. So there are ions there always.
Of course.
There is sodium and potassium and calcium. There is a number of.
So essentially, what you're really doing is accelerating cellular metabolism.
Yes, that's the effect. By hammering the cell membrane with the ions that exist in the serum, whatever is around the cell, is called serum. And this is not just my consideration. This technique exists and it's called electroinsertion, by giving pulses to chemicals to penetrate membranes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And also it's called electroporation. Electroporation, just a stronger effect. To the point that you open new holes. But if you just open the existing holes, it's electroinsertion, and a heavier phenomenon is electroporation. And they do it in a laboratory scale. And I'm doing that in non-invasively in vivo, on the body itself. So if we have an area that is, let's take the eye for example, and the eye has very high pressure. There is some liquids trapped, and they cannot escape through the nose. If I just give them a pulse, the existing pores will open, and then all at once the eye pressure drops in seconds. We have a lymph node that is swollen. It's the same principle. Again, it traps some liquids, and we pulsate like that. You see they deflate down, or become normal.
Eliminate the inflammation.
Eliminate the inflammation and the edema instantly by provoking the circulation of whatsoever in the area. So it's the principle to make matter penetrate matter, as I said at the beginning.
But specific matter penetrates specific matter.
Yeah.
It's not just a nail on a piece of wood.
It's the ions that are waiting there to enter the cell.
Sure. You're essentially accelerating ionization to such
the
an extent.
movement of the ions, yes.
The movement, right.
And that has an effect in the blood, around the cells, also in the lymphatic liquids.
Now, is it going to change pH of the blood or tissue?
It does. We have seen increases pH, and that we cannot explain increases pH. Even in a sealed bottle of water, pH goes up, and we don't understand how that occurs. But we have confirmed again and again over several years experimenting and repeating that. We see that the pH of water increases, and also the sweetness. If you take a soda, a sweet soda, also that increases. And changes taste of wines and does all sorts of things.
I hope for the better. Wow. Now, you have used this technology for the treatment of a series of different kinds of disorders, including degenerative disorders. Is that correct?
Mostly it works for degenerative disorders, for older people, any kind of degenerates. And, life depends on the transfer of matter. If you can accelerate that,
exactly,
then you make the cell acting or functioning as a young cell.
Right. So therefore, you have had, tell me of some of your success. You've been using this now clinically for some 12 or so years.
First of all, it's an extreme good anti-inflammatory technique. It works against edema, swelling, and works against pain. But I think all these 4 topics is due to a lower rate of the sodium-potassium pump which goes in and out to the cell membrane. So the transfer of sodium and potassium through the cell membrane is increased, and that works against pain, because when this sodium is accumulated, is a source of pain and a source of swelling, because sodium holds water, holds the water a lot. So if there is sodium, there is swelling at the same time.
Sure.
There is pain and there is inflammation. All this go away almost practically at 0 time.
In a nanosecond or 2. It's pretty good.
A few seconds to be practical.
Yeah, right, to be practical. To extend it out a little bit over time. Wow, isn't that something? Now, what other kinds of problems? I'd imagine that it would be also very good, just by the sound of it, for arthritis.
Okay, arthritis, because the arthritis is due to inflammation and to certain salts which are accumulated or blocked, and that increases their circulation. Again, we fall into the same category. Enhances circulation of whatever, not only blood, but also for blood. Now, what else it is doing that boosts the immune system? White cells get very excited. We have the killer cells, which kill when they realize something doesn't belong to the body. They attack and eat and kill. They get excited. They get really excited. So
watch out for an excited white blood cell.
For a white cell. And now, we have a circulation that brings those cells into the area, and they're also excited. So if you have an infection, they attack. They attack the infection. Also, we have a frozen healing situation because of the new blood going into the area.
What is that? A what?
I have a wound that doesn't heal.
Oh, okay.
That's for 10 years maybe. You will see that it will heal in a month. Because a lot of blood, a lot of
it's stagnant.
Yes, a lot of blood brings nutrients, increases locally the metabolism, so everything favors the situation. I'll tell you a very striking example. We have a burns. It works so well with the burns that if you do it right after a burn, nothing will show up like a burned skin.
I have read some of the reports of burn victims.
Yes, it's fantastic.
And the regeneration of skin is fantastic. Unbelievable.
Yes, indeed.
It's unbelievable. Have you introduced this to burn clinics?
Well, it's a very, not yet I would say. I mean, it's a very strict area. You don't have opportunities to experiment with. I say I would like to treat somebody with a burn. Where is he? It's I don't have them every day. I cannot just treat on a regular basis.
You don't have access to the population.
Yeah, I don't have access to cases, burn cases. But
this is something I think with any burn unit would be very interested in.
20, 30 cases, and all worked fantastically.
Is that so?
Yeah, my personal experience, my friends' experience. things like that, but
Yes,
not on
yes,
a
yes.
regular basis. It's hard to run clinical studies on that.
Have you done any double-blind studies with the Papimi?
Absolutely, we've done with animals at the beginning. Animals, we've done a lot. First of all, we wanted to see whether there were side effects. So after my wife's first experiment, we never had a pregnant woman to participate in such experiment.
Well, that happened by accident anyway.
The first experiment happened by accident, but willingly, you don't have such a, nobody will offer.
That's right.
Nobody will offer. But we did that with animals, with rats. And we just managed to have 3 generations of rats. Rats that were pregnant exposed, the babies grew up and they mate again, have new babies and new babies for 3 generations. And we just, there was nothing adverse there.
Okay, so there were no side effects. And did the babies...
Even for a pregnant, I would say to you...
Did the baby rats come out more intelligent?
That we didn't check at that time. But however, all the children I have been around, including my children,
Yes.
they are top in their brains and intellectually and in
Highly
the school.
functioning.
Very highly
Yeah,
functioning.
yeah.
It's becoming common. But we do know that for retarded children, they improve. They improve definitely.
How about autistic children?
Children?
Autistic? Autism? Well, it's a certain kind of condition where children
Paraplegic children
behave very abnormally, both physically and mentally, and oftentimes they stop talking. It
helps.
both
Concentration.
psychological.
Probably we didn't check that, but it helps concentration. It creates relaxation a lot. And confidence, increases confidence. And many persons, we are just thinking about committing a suicide to the point, then they change their attitude.
Oh yeah, sure. And of course, everybody always wants to know about cancer and what kind of effect it might have on that.
I have a theory on cancer, and I can support my theory if we just have the time to do that. Cancer is a state of panic for cells when they are stressed and they feel they are going to die. So they decide to multiply to survive as species. And this happens always, and this is also known in plants. If you water a plant, it will not go into the process of multiplying. And if you want just the orchids, orchids, they multiply if you take a piece of their leaves and you put it in a dry environment which is stressed, and they put them in an enclosure. So stress is very closely associated with multiplication. Now, cancer is multiplication. So if you have a tissue that for any reason, for any defect, something goes wrong, it is not metabolizing properly. Now we'll go back to metabolism. Proliferates and feels that it's going to die, proliferates in order to survive.
Sure.
By doing so, the problem is not solved. It needs more nutrients because the population increases.
Sure.
So the crisis increases. So you keep growing in something which is stressed in a very poor environment.
Its survival is threatened.
Right.
And therefore it does everything it can
now, if
to,
you provide,
to maintain
if
and
you,
develop
if
itself.
you increase its metabolism and
Right.
its oxygenation,
Right.
they stop proliferating. You're halting proliferation or growth, cancer growth.
Well, cancer cannot survive in the presence of oxygen.
Right. But
And this was discovered many, many years ago.
Yes, because they...
And is that the
they
way the
say-
Papimi
yes,
affects it?
Yes.
By
Oxygenating
oxygenating the cells.
and metabolizing the cells. Give food to the cancer and the cancer will ease. If it is properly fed and oxygenated, it doesn't proliferate anymore. And that halts its growth. Now you give time to the immune system to attack. As I said before, the immune system is boosted, is enhanced. And by giving time, and the immune system is in good condition, may take over at the cancer.
Do you have, in our remaining minutes, we're almost out of time, I just still think it's interesting. The theory is a common sense idea that
This is my personal theory that fits my observation.
I understand, but it shares much in common with other thinking as well. Anything that's threatened seeks to either retreat or attack. It's just part of our reptilian function in general. But what have been the noted and proven effects of the Papimi with cancer?
As I said, it's halt growth to tumor extinction, particularly early stages.
You've had, so
Many
you've had,
for example, breast cancer camps now in Germany. We find out that it works most of the cases if that is early stage.
early stage, okay.
If it-
So would it be only breast cancer?
No.
or
Many other
any
cases.
number? I mean,
Many other cases.
I mean,
but
the principle of cancer is the same no matter where it occurs in the body. So
yes,
it would stand to reason then.
I have
this would have
the
effect.
following: if the patient can put on weight, that is, his functions may support him,
Yes.
then Papimi will do it.
That's interesting.
If you tell me that this patient can stabilize his weight, or he can gain weight, and he has cancer, and he's treated by Papimi, he will get out of it.
That's great.
That's my point. But if he's losing weight, he has no supportive functions because his liver is destroyed, his stomach is destroyed by cancer or by something else, and he's not supported as a whole, then maybe you halt his growth, but at the end it will fail. But the indication, if he can gain weight, and you give the opportunity of Papimi, he will do it.
Dr. Pappas, in our closing minute here, what would you say the Papimi has not been good for? Has there been anything?
I cannot recall anything. I cannot recall of anything. Maybe it drops a little blood pressure, makes your blood pressure drop a little. But that might last for
in many cases, at least in New York, that's a good thing.
10 minutes, and if you drink a soda, you just regain the drop of blood pressure. I don't know anything else. Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. I think we should all be happy about that.
To give you a negative answer, I mean, sure.
Not a problem. Listen, I want to thank you very much for, first of all, what you have accomplished here and what you have brought forth into the world.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And Papimi is under IRB studies of FDA now. And what I mentioned to you has to be proven by the FDA standards, and we tend to do so.
Excellent. Efrados.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Great to have you. Well, you heard it. This very fascinating technology is becoming more and more available as more doctors and other healthcare practitioners find out about it and make use of it. So maybe you'll be one of those. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Thanks so much for joining us.